Yeah, welcome one and all, especially the freshers here, to this particular orientation of Enthuse 2024. So I just wanted to start with this quote. Happy are those who spend their days in gaining knowledge, in discovering the secrets of nature, and in penetrating the subtleties of pure truth. And that is somewhat defining the pursuit of science and research for me. So science is a way of thinking, and research is a tool to execute those thoughts into action. And I would like to talk about the research activities that happen at IIT Bombay and the opportunities that you as undergrad students can avail to explore these opportunities. Formally, these programs and informal ones, the program opportunities are written down here. You may not remember these acronyms right now, so bear with me. There is a summer undergraduate research program, and there is also an in-semester undergraduate research program run by EnPoWER. There are also Bachelor of Technology projects and student learning projects, which are group projects, which are typically for credit. And there are then open research internships that one can do with independent calls. There are as many research groups in IIT Bombay as there are faculty here. So you can, in fact, if you want to explore something, or if you already have clarity on what you want to explore, you can map them into faculty and go meet them and then interact with them and their students, and then maybe engage with them in many sorts of ways over the 4 years of time that you spend at IIT Bombay. Along with that, there are lots of facilities which are especially built for research as well as specifically for undergrad students. The Makerspace, Microfactory and Tinkerers Lab is meant for you all to actually just go and do things by yourself. Then there are central and department facilities which are hosted at IRCC, individual labs and their equipment, software licenses of all kinds which are available. But most importantly, you have faculty and other students, senior students from both undergrad as well as masters and PhDs who are working in these labs, and you can engage with them. So qualities that you need to develop for research, I would say being objective, efficient, productive, and creative. That sounds like a lot. But these are the sort of sequence of things that you need to do to be able to do some kind of research. You need to have a motivation to do research, right? It could be curiosity driven, I want to find out more about something, or it could be application driven, you're trying to solve a particular problem that you already have hit in a roadblock. And no research today happens individually, so it is a collaboration. So you think, read, talk to people, to stakeholders, and you define these objectives that you want to work on. You need some creativity, I'm sure all of you have it in you. So maintain an idea book, write down what you think of, make a model. When you say model, it can be a sketch, it can be something in your head, it can be building a small structure or prototype and so on. And then try to develop the skills in the chosen areas. If you want to do theoretically, if you want to solve a problem, or if you want to do with some simulations, then you have to sort of build your skills into it. Or if you want to do experiments, then you have to reach out and do some hands-on activities to gain that experience. Well, discipline, this is something that all of you who have gone through JEE know, that nothing comes without hard work and discipline. So planning your work and maintaining a timeline is important, documentation of your work is important, and communication is important. But you're not supposed to have all these skills right away. So what we are saying is that when you are interested in research, then you develop all these skills during the course of that time that you spend here. What are the perks actually of doing research? Well, there is no boring day when you are doing research, right? There could be frustrating days, there could be emotional days, there could be happy days, and there are lots of days where you feel joyous that you learned something new, but definitely no boring days. So I have left you with the quote there, and my personal experience with UG students, I would say you can, go. So these are the students that worked in my lab, and I just wanted to highlight that these were all UG students. I have sort of split them up into before 2020 and after 2020, and there is some social distancing in the second row, as you can see it, you know why that is. But nevertheless, the energy of the UG students never was hindered by all these major and minor tumultuous events that have happened over the course of time. So I have had Neha, who is currently doing a master's in Aachen. She sort of was the first student who joined my lab, not a PhD student, not a master's student, a UG student joined my lab when I began here in 2016. Then Hrishikesh, who's now doing a PhD in UC Berkeley, he sort of joined my lab in his second year in the summer and stayed on because he was so interested in what was going on in the lab. He interacted with so many students, and then he later converted to a dual degree because he was so keen on continuing that work. Then there is Taksh, who did again a BTP project with me, Abu, who did ICERP internship with me, Tejas, who again converted to dual degree, Rohit converted to dual degree, Mahesh, who actually joined and did a BTP in his final year. After he had got a job, he wanted to see what research is all about. So it's never too late, never too early. You can start like tomorrow, or you can start almost at the end of your time here. Apoor is still around, you can catch him somewhere and talk to him about what he is up to. And Shardul has just graduated this year. All of them are doing something with respect to higher studies or exploring jobs which are in the core because they were actually interested in the core research activities. And they did a lot of things with respect to not just doing research but communicating research. So they developed some videos which we have put up on our webpage. One of them created a YouTube channel for us, and then there are lots of nice and interesting work that the student learned animation and did this on his own. So there are lots of things that they did which I've listed here as achievements. In fact, journal publications which came out with first author with UG student writing it, right? That means that they did the work, they documented it, they wrote it, and they managed to publish it. And that's no mean feat if you realize what research is about. And these are all high impact international journals that they have published in. So they did wonderful research work because they immersed themselves in it once they found some interest or calling in it. It doesn't mean that you have to do it with the same lab all the 4 years, but if you do find your calling, then staying on and working on something will really help. So these are just snapshots of the journals with their names on it so that you see that it's real. And there are lots of awards and honors that they won in conference presentations, fellowships that they won, and some of the pictures, because my phone is pretty new, I have lost all the old pictures, but these are the new ones. Mahesh was a gold medalist from last year. Hrishikesh and Abu met somewhere in the US at a conference again later. They were collaborators here doing their research. And there are also, of course, researchers who come from other IITs or NITs or other academic institutes doing their summer internships here, so you can work with them as well. So there are so many opportunities. I'll skip that slide because I don't want to take too much time. Just wanted to bring this up, that engineering is problem solving. Ask questions, focus on defining the problem, and don't become comfortable in this place. You need to always be, because you did so much work to come here, so use the opportunity. Think of everything as an opportunity and don't waste your time just because you have high-speed internet, okay? So come down, work with people, talk to people, and your mind is your biggest strength, so use it. And if you don't know what Ikigai is there's a small picture there. So find your Ikigai in the 4 years of time that you're here. So thank you so much.
Hi, good evening all. I'm Balamurugan. I'm from Industrial Engineering and Operations Research, which is a very new department which starts BTech this year. I hope some of you are here. Show of hands. Great. Okay, so I am interested in various themes. For example, optimization for machine learning, kernel methods, distributed machine learning. I'm also looking into domain shifts, adaptation, and deep learning for various tasks. I'll just go through some of the research activities that are happening in my lab. Hopefully some of the UG students who joined our department will work with me also. You can go for the next slide. Okay. Is it this? Okay. So with Bish, Vivek, Karthikeyan is a UG student here, he's still around. Viplav, others are PG and PhD students. We work on medical image segmentation, which is an interesting task. The idea is this: you have the scan images of some organs, and you have to predict the regions which are tumorous or which are anomalous in some sense to the doctors, which are of importance to the doctors. So this is the task. the task in most of the machine learning problems are input-output based. You have an input and you have to predict an output. And the type of algorithms that are used for these types of tasks are different. We are interested in developing various types of algorithms. Next, please. The AI models work on these inputs and then they try to give the outputs. These AI models are the ones that we try to build. Next, please. So there are several types of settings. For example, in a supervised training setup, you are given both the inputs and the outputs when you want to train the model. This was possibly one of the earliest schemes of training models, but now things have changed because the cost of obtaining annotations for these types of medical images is quite costly. The doctors have to spend some time, the clinicians have to spend a lot of time in coming up with very precise demarcations of the locations of these anomalous regions. Therefore, supervised learning has been slowly discarded. And therefore we go for a slightly weaker setting, which is called, next please, yeah, weakly supervised setting, where instead of precise notations or annotations, you are just giving a bounding box annotations which are easy to obtain, or in some cases only the image level labels. For example, this image is healthy image or this image is an unhealthy image. So these are the types of images or the labels that you get for the task itself. So you can imagine the complexity that gets developed in the AI model, which was possibly working on a very simple setting in the earlier case, now has to work on this type of complicated setting. The even more complicated setting is the next one. Next slide, please. The unsupervised training, where you don't have labels at all, you're just given images and the AI model has to predict the particular regions in a precise manner. This is the hardest task, and some of the algorithms that we are developing comes under this setting as well as in the weakly supervised setting, and we are doing some works in this. Next slide, please. The other areas that we are working on are vision systems, where we try to understand the models that we develop for one domain. For example, in this case, let's say the top figures, where you have camera-based images, dashcam images, which indicate usual weather conditions. Whereas on the right side, you can see that the images are obtained in different weather conditions. For example, foggy, hazy, rainy, and so on like that. The models which are developed for these types of images may not necessarily generalize to these types of images. So it becomes a hard task for us to adapt these models to these types of images, which is called, the idea itself is called domain shift, and the task is called domain adaptation. So we are looking into some of these tasks. This is also common in various medical image processing tasks, where you get images from multiple hospitals, but each hospital has its own way of measuring these images or capturing these images. For example, the dyes used are different, the device parameters are different, but still people just do these things. Therefore, a model developed for a particular hospital may not work for the other hospitals. Therefore, how do we adapt it? So this is the task of domain adaptation, where we are trying to build some models. Next, please. So this is just a very high level overview of the sketch that we are trying to do here. So the top and the bottom ones are for the source and the target models, and the idea so far has been to compare these distributions of the intermediate feature representations that are learned in these models and try to align these models in some sense. We are looking into other aspects of these models. This is a joint work with Rahul Vaishnav, who is my PhD student. Next, please. This is another interesting tool that we developed in collaboration with Drs. Billa and Dr. Deepa. They are nephrologists. They wanted a tool which can actually give them very fast retrieval of research clinical trial papers. So doctors generally want to understand what's really current happening in this research. Therefore, they wanted a retrieval tool for the particular task of IgA nephropathy disease. They gave us some parameters like proteinuria, creatinine, glomerular filtration, and age, and so on like that. I think, as Professor Jaya mentioned earlier, most of the research happens in collaboration with multiple teams, and therefore this is a very interesting collaboration project that we could actually do. We developed a retrieval tool. Of course, you can see why not use Google or why not use ChatGPT. They are not very effective in these types of precise retrieval tasks still. ChatGPT is trying to build up on it, but still it's not very effective. Therefore, we try to develop a tool for the doctors. Anyways. Our tool could actually retrieve more relevant documents which can be ordered in some particular ranking scheme. We developed a ranking scheme which are useful for the doctors in terms of relevance as well as in terms of the recency. And we also try to see why this document is actually quite relevant and what are the parameters that are given by the user are actually present in the document itself. So the user might have given, let's say, a proteinuria of 1 to 3, and the extracted one will have possibly greater than 1 as the desired value in the paper itself or in the clinical trial research abstract itself. Therefore, these types of document retrieval schemes are some things which we have developed. I'll skip the video possibly. You can go next. Yeah, so these are some of the other screenshots. Next, please. I'll skip the video. Next. Apart from that, we are also working on theoretical models for various machine learning problems. One of the models that we are considering with Akash Saha is about function-to-function regression. This is a very interesting problem where you have to regress a function based upon other functions. This is an example where, for example, you have three functional data, Z1, Z2, Z3, which might indicate some continuous signals. And we also have a graphical structure embedded. We want to learn both the graph as well as the map, which is F, to map these along with the graph into an output Y. Okay, so this output Y might itself be multiple, but here we have considered just a single output. So this might come under many applications. For example, weather predictions, where you have to predict the average rainfall given the temperature, pressure conditions, precipitation conditions, etc. And many other applications, these types of problems appear. We worked on kernel-based methods for these types of problems, and we have developed some approaches for this. Next, please. And along with Chavi and Vishnu, we have also studied some distributed applications in machine learning where we try to come up with algorithms with proper rigorous guarantees for different types of algorithms which solve convex minimization problems as well as saddle point problems. These are other types of works that happen in our lab. And next, please. So this is just a collage of activities that happen. We actually exhibit our work in the Tech Fest. We have been exhibiting for the past 2-3 years, and these are some of the exhibits that we had in Tech Fest. And that's our team presentation, for example. And they are undergrad interns who worked with us in a different project. They are from some other institute, and this is some fun space. If you have any questions, maybe you can talk to me later, since there is no time. Thanks for this opportunity.
Hello everyone, and welcome to IIT Bombay. So my slides will come up in some moment. So before it comes, let me ask you a question. Yeah. To my laptop? No, I think it'll come. It's fine. So let me ask you this question. Which is the oldest engineering? I can hear it, civil, because I'm from civil. That's the wrong answer. Oh, mechanical, wrong answer. Any more guesses? No, it won't connect. Metallurgy, no. Well, the oldest engineering happens to be military engineering. And everything, if you see, happens because of a need, right? And there is a demand. So, by the way, who built the first computer in the world? Who? Okay. Who built an interesting computer in the world? First interesting computer in the world? Alan Turing. Okay. So, why did he build Alan Turing? Why did he build the computer? He wanted to outwit the Germans, right? So it was a necessity from the war. And then there was a bunch of people who said, like, okay, we don't want to get into all these, killing people, blasting this, that, and all. And those people became civil engineers. So everything in engineering is actually civil engineering because it is for civilians. And then from that came branches like mechanical, without any disrespect to anyone here. And then we had all these. No, it won't connect. The attachment is not there. That's okay. Don't worry. And then what we said was, okay, let's look at it this way. What can we do? So we did many things. From seaports to airports, from roadways to railways. Who builds it? From buildings to bridges, from skyscrapers to, let's say, tunnels. Who builds it? Water retaining structures like dams, pure drinking water, to sewage treatment plants. Who builds it? So we are there everywhere. Thank you. So those who did not take civil, you can consider. Well, I want to say this, that I'm not here only to represent civil engineering. I'm here to represent engineering because, the demarcations between engineering are very, very less. In IIT Bombay, we don't have this policy of brand change now. it was a conscious decision because engineering is actually very thin. I just saw professor was explaining about AI and ML. Do you know who uses the most AI and ML? Who uses the most computational facility in this institute? So we are there everywhere. Programming, we do. Okay? So computer science engineers, we are here to take your jobs. So I actually made a presentation, but unfortunately the attachment seems to be missing, but it's okay. Never mind, it happens sometimes. We are not so tech savvy, yeah? But it's okay. So let me tell you what we do. And it's not just what I do, but what we do in civil engineering, because as Professor told, it's all about collaborations. So we have a group which does something called as, so we say we don't kill or blast or destroy structures, but we make structures safe for that destruction. So we make something known as a blast resistant design. Okay? And now there is something very interesting. There is EMF. You know what's EMF? JEE pass karke aaye aap log. Electromotive force. Okay? Electromagnetic force bhi hota hai. So there is something known as electromagnetic force, and this can destroy our communication network. So there was this team from the armed forces. I'm not naming anyone for the sake of the security concern, but this particular project was given to IIT Bombay, and they asked us to make a structure that if somebody uses EMF to sort of handicap us from all our electronic gadgets, the structure is safe enough to ensure that those waves don't enter it. So that is something that we have done very recently. And then I'm just trying to recollect from my slides. So right from blast resistant design, we also can do something from transportation. So all the safe transportation is something that we do. And one interesting project that one of my colleagues is working on is how does alcohol affect the rider? You must have been reading the news, right? Alcohol, people consume alcohol and then they kill people, right? So that's not the best part. The best part is coming now. The best part is that we actually do simulation of that on our students. So there is a lab, you can visit it in BMCC, but you'll have to sign that you are 18 plus and all those things, and you will be given in limited quantities. But you can actually, we have a simulator. And then we also do a lot of programming. We make lots of interesting programs. I told you we are the heaviest users of computational facility in our institute. So I think there is something known as FEM, finite element method, which most of the engineers use. I think so people use it for small things, okay? Like you want to model a nut and a bolt, small thing, you do it. What do civil engineers do? They model the entire building. They model the entire bridge. It takes 3-4 weeks to run the model, right? So that is the sort of engineering that we do. But I'll tell you something more interesting that, what sort of ideas we work on. We work on robotics. Now, civil engineering and robotics, well, there is something known as 3D printing. You've heard of that? Yes. So 3D printing was getting a lot of popularity, and people were making metal printing, and people were doing something with PLA, plastic and all. We said, the hell with all this. Concrete se print kar denge. And it has become a reality now. Please come to our lab. We have an elephant called a robotic arm printer. We didn't give a name yet, but maybe we should give. But we have an elephant sort of a printer. It's a robotic arm printer. That's why I'm calling it elephant, but it looks like an elephant. So it's a big thing, and we sort of print rooms. As of now it's rooms, but in 2024 we plan to build a entire office space. Okay, so you are welcome to come and see it in our civil engineering laboratory. We have a 3D printer, concrete 3D printer. And then what is the use of building all this when we are not being sustainable, right? We need sustainability. So people said, okay, now where do we throw our trash? We have a lot of trash. Concrete mein bhar dete hain. So people say, you get this fly ash, dal do. You get this GGBS slag, dal do concrete mein. And by the way, It's great to put it. You know why? The particle size is so small. It's smaller than cement. So it actually fills all the voids. You get better durability. Fantastic, no? And then people said, okay, our computer science people, they use a lot of, this keyboard and mouse, and they have all these gadgets. They have this electronic waste. They said electronic waste is बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है. Let us put that in concrete as well. That's not good. Huh? Don't do that. And then during COVID, somebody said, let's put all the masks and gloves in concrete. We are taking it too far. But then we are, accommodative people. We say, okay, we'll make sustainable concrete. So our group actually came up with a very interesting thing. We said, let's make sustainable concrete with zero cement. No, it's actually a patentable thing that we are receiving a patent very soon. So we have zero cement, zero virgin aggregate, that means zero fine sand, the river sand that you get, and actual aggregate, the stones that you see, right? We don't use any of that. How do we do it? We do a trick. Let's not discuss about it. So we talk about that. And then we also use drones. You must have heard about drones for what? Marriage mein, zzz, right? We'll do this tech fest and mood India very soon. Again, zzz, right? But we use it for some other things. We say, okay, how much have the building has been constructed? We monitor. If there is an earthquake, by the way, earthquake, we make structures which are safe. Huh? So if something goes wrong, we are responsible. If something goes good, we are only responsible. So earthquake resistant design is something that we do, and during earthquake, you need to have this quick reconnaissance, right? So we use drones for that. So a lot of survey is being done. We do tomographic surveys, we do subsurface surveys, we do a lot of interesting things. And now what we are doing is we are saying we can also do high-end inspections using drones. For example, you want to see if there is any corrosion in a structure, or if there is any cracks in a structure. You take a drone, fly it around, you can sit in your office, sip a coffee, your computer model shows everything. And again, there we use machine learning. We use other computer vision techniques to sort of detect what is happening. So a lot of interesting things happen. But many years back, I had this idea. In fact, I came to IIT Bombay to present this. Of course, I didn't win, but then I'll tell you the idea now. The idea was to have a structure which is floating in the air. You may ask why. I mean, I just had this crazy thought. Then I thought, okay, we should have some functionality for that. So the functionality was that if there is an earthquake, what will shake? If there is no contact with the earth. So I said, okay, why not? We can do it. So how do we do it? And then I looked at some technologies called as maglev technology. Very expensive. Then I looked at more literature and we said, let us use something called as Hallback array and make the structure levitate. There will be no contact with the ground. You may say, sir, somebody comes and just pushes it like that, the building will go away, no? No, it will not go away. We'll use something known as guide ropes. We are smart people. We'll think of solutions to everything. And then we said, okay, let's make it. Let's build it. But that time, I did not get selected in IIT Bombay for that particular Tech Fest event. But then I hear very recently that Japan has done it 2 years back. Okay, so this is your time. You have to catch this. So please come and visit our labs in civil engineering. There's so much of interesting things happening. You need not be from civil engineering, but we have job for everyone, right? So please come and take a look at our facilities, and most welcome to IIT Bombay.
It's a wonderful initiative, and I thank Professor Jaya and the team Enthuse for inviting me. So after go back. Don't be too fast in life. You have just joined. They have just joined. Okay, so the second from the right is the Rahul Bajaj building, where the chief boss also sits. We are in the 4th floor at this point of time. So Department of Economics is housed in the Rahul Bajaj building, 4th floor. Anyway, so my job is also, because we have started the BS Economics program in 2017, as you may be knowing. So I also want to talk a bit about what we do in the Department of Economics apart from my work. Okay, next. So when it comes to your plus 10 or plus 12, I do not know whether you are being introduced to your NCERT books, social studies, part of that was economics. You must have heard of the terms demand and supply. The point here is that you are talking about two different entities in the economy. When you buy a pizza, you are a consumer, so you demand, and when a pizza is sold to you, so there is a supply side. But I am more interested to introduce to you the conflict that we continuously research in economics. So you must have seen that sales versus profit. I did not write sales and profit. So when you say Brazil versus Argentina, that means there is a competitive forces. So now, most of the common people will say that, oh, if sales is increasing, if you are able to achieve your sales target, you are also achieving your profit target. I am going to show you that that is not the case. There is a conflict of interest between sales maximization and profit maximization. Next. So let me talk about. So therefore, many of you after your 4 years of college at IIT Bombay will go for doing CAT exam and MBA, one of the so-called Ivy League place, and many of you would like to become a marketing manager or chief regional sales manager. On the other hand, there will be a board, there will be a CEO who will say that no, show me the profit. I am not interested whether you have achieved your sales target or not. I am interested in whether you have made me achieve my highest profit or not. So what is happening here? So let us think of a novelist. She is a novelist. She writes J.K. Rowling maybe. She writes books and there is a book publisher. Suppose Walker Books. Now please try to understand that she is the author, she is going to write a novel, and she wants her novel to reach every household. So J.K. Rowling would like to reach her creative work every household. But Walker Books wants to achieve maximum profit. He doesn't bother whether everybody is reading that book or not. Okay, so now that means the novelist is looking for suppose 2 million copies sold. But then Walker Books can say that I am not interested in that 2 million copies sold. I am interested in having that profit. What it means is that, next please, we can mathematically show that the profit curve, because you are going to maximize profit, so there has to be a maxima. Therefore, there is a critical level, say 0, that is the level of sales at which you are having the maximum profit. That does not mean A0 is the maximum amount of sales, because as you go on beyond A0, you can increase your sales. You will be able to reach more household, but the profit will be less. So therefore, there is a conflict of interest majority of the times when you get into corporate sector, that the sales team, whether they are going to achieve a sales target, they will be given A0, but the sales team would like to go beyond A0, but then the CEO and the board will say no, because only A0 gives me the maximum profit. Okay, now let me now, therefore, from there I want to link to one of our work. You will see that I have highlighted firm size and industry size. That means I am talking about size, if the sales or market share is the size, firm vis-a-vis industry. So this idea, we looked into the literature, we found that our government of India and many of the policymakers were continuously putting in our ears through the media, popular media so-called, that India is going to be the top 5, so on and so forth. But we thought that, as he was talking about, everywhere there is civil engineering. We believe that looking into the Industrial Revolution, 1870, we found that steel and iron, so I am going for the metallurgy, Jaya has invited me. So we found that steel and iron is the base for any fundamental of any economy in the world. Now, if iron and steel is that fundamental, we looked into, I don't have a highlighter, he has already apologized. So, if you look at this second one, you'll see that these blue bars, we tracked and we found that, yes, steel and iron industry has been continuously growing. And can you please go next? So now when we looked into we just put the distribution. When we look into their search distribution, we notice that is amazing. That means there are a huge number of firms whose sales is very, very less, and there are very less number of firms whose sales are very, very high. What we therefore understood that this industry, India iron and steel industry, is dominated by some big giants. That big giants we are going to call dominant firm, and other we call fringes. And therefore we could locate that the big firms almost now controlling 69% of the market share. It has gone up. That means SAIL, JSW, Tata Steel, ArcelorMittal, Jindal. These five dominates. If you add these numbers, 20, 18, 16, 8 and 7, you will find that 69%. That means in the Indian market, iron and steel industry, 69% of the industry is dominated by these five. Remaining 31% is by hundreds and hundreds of other firms. We wanted to mathematically model and see what does it happen. So we modeled, we formed an optimization problem, and if you see now what is the perspective. As I started saying demand and supply, the demand from the consumer side and supply from the producer side, we are now thinking of research and development undertaken by the iron and steel firms as a technological breakthrough. If Tata Steel engages in research and development and considers it as a technological breakthrough, then we do some stupid maths, and now see, please understand, there is a small q and there is a capital Q. Capital Q is the industry output. So whenever you see the capital Q, that is an industry output. Small q is output of Tata Steel, I, for the ith firm. What we can prove that, now second, we take R&D as a monetary expenditure. So one that you can say it's a technological breakthrough, but when you undertake R&D, you have to spend money. Now please go back. Don't be hurry. Now for R&D as a technological breakthrough, see there is a lambda I. The lambda I is positive. Note it. Please mind it. For R&D as a technological breakthrough, lambda I is positive. Go back. Go next. But when R&D is a monetary expenditure, lambda is negative. That lambda is very important, extremely important. One is, when I am doing technological breakthrough, I am trying to be benevolent, I am accommodative, because I know I am a market leader. I am among the top 5. So if I know I am among the top 5, I do not I do not mind sharing my lecture notes with him. But if I have if I consider R&D as a monetary expenditure, I have taken up 200 crores of loan from SBI to invest with a huge risk cost, I am not a benevolent. So lambda I negative means I push him out. I want to become an absolute monopoly. So therefore, important when we talk about economics is that which perspective I am going to take. If I am taking R&D as a technological breakthrough, lambda I positive means I am accommodative. If I am not taking as a technological breakthrough but interpreting it, perceiving it only as a monetary expenditure, lambda is negative. Now what do we get? Next. Now what we get, which gets a very important result, is that you see that there is a Q bar and Q upper bar and P upper bar. We prove mathematically therefore that if the dominant firm undertakes R&D, therefore the industry output goes up and the industry level price go down, which we call social welfare. That means if the dominant firm undertakes R&D as a benevolent, therefore it can increase the industry size and can lower the price at the industry level, which is very important for economics. And if we go by this, the beautiful part of this result is that even with R&D as a monetary expenditure, when I am pushing him out of the market, the result stands through that. Next. Okay, now I talk about very briefly about our work on trade. Now, go on. Now, at some point of time, you must have you must have read in your history book, there used to be sea route trade. The sea route trade because the aeroplanes were not yet invented. Now, there were mercantilists. Mercantilists are industrialists. In later period, Russia, they called it oligarchs. The mercantilists believed that we will form colony. So, we were a British colony. So, like they wanted to form colony A and colony B, and beautiful part is that as you form colony, there is no trade between colony and colony B. So, if British would have made separate colony India and Sri Lanka, they would have made sure that India and Sri Lanka cannot involve in trade. You have to give everything back to your mother country, which is Britain, Great Britain, the only country which has a prefix great. If you happen to have with me EC 101, we will talk about it later. Anyway, so now, go on. Now, the part is that you see that this is highlighted. Trade occurs between countries. Between countries means I am selling automobiles, I am getting wheat from Russia. We track the India's export data and import data, India's trade data over last 40-50 years. We found that something very important had happened post 1991, what we call the phase of liberalization. We realized that now no more countries are exporting automobiles and getting wheat. I am giving you cucumber, you give me tomato. Those days are gone. Now what is happening is that countries are, now look at this table. Earlier it was between, now it is within. See that yellow part. Now look at 2014. Commodity code. See the blue shade. You can see that. That means there is trade happening between the same commodity code. That means I am giving you nano, you are giving me an equivalent of nano. That means trade is happening within same industry group. That was not happening earlier. So we wanted to get into this and see whether India's perspective to grow as the third largest economy in the world is actually depending upon how India can involve into intra-industry trade. To give you an example, what do we mean by intra-industry trade? There are two different kinds, what we call horizontal and vertical. A very crude example I am giving to you at this point of time. So if you say Darjeeling tea and Assam tea, these are for a horizontally differentiated good. None of us, unless and until you are a specialized tea tester, you cannot distinguish between an Assam tea and Darjeeling tea. None of us, in this room at least I can vouch. But when you give you iPhone 15 and something called Redmi, I think everybody in this class will go for iPhone. I am assuming that, that's my assumption. That means that in our psyche, it is inbuilt that technologically superior is what we call vertically diverse. So, when it comes to vertical inter-industry trade, we distinguish between technological superiority. When it comes for horizontal inter-industry trade, we see that are they at the same taste and preferences. Go ahead. So then what we did, so go slow. So we therefore plotted India's all trading partners. All of India's trading partners we plotted. Now we plotted and we say first quadrant 1 is low per capita income. PCI stands for per capita income. So we identified the countries with which India trades with low per capita income and low IIT, low level of intra-industry trade. Next. Then this is the quadrant 2, low per capita income but high IIT. IIT level is very high but per capita income is very low, but there's blank, that is a null set actually. Go ahead. Then there is quadrant 3, very high per capita income. You see the countries there, Germany, USA, France, Italy, Spain, South Korea. Those are the countries which are dominating this globalized world. Go on. Next. And this is the quadrant 4, which is high PCI but low magnitude of IIT. Go on. So therefore, what we can do next, we could identify and send it to the government as a report, that we could identify that if you want to go on doing very vertically differentiated trade or horizontally, depending upon which products are we thinking of, we can identify and we can identify which country therefore will be our focus to go for trade. Next. Before I end, I just want to talk about how economics and finance, and in Department of Economics we do some part of theoretical work with engages economics and finance. This is a paper with my former PhD student. She is now a faculty in one of the IIMs. Go on. So now, there are two kinds of financing that you will be introduced, or some of you know, which is called debt financing and equity financing. Debt financing, essentially you are taking a bank loan. Equity financing is that you ask your dad, I want to have a startup, can you please give you all your savings? Right. So dad says that I can give you all your savings, but who bears the risk? You say that you bear the risk, because it's your money. So therefore, the basic funda is that you want to hedge the risk. In order to hedge the risk, you say that I want to take a bank loan. So that is debt financing versus equity financing. Now we develop a theoretical model where we devise three stages. The stage one is the choice of debt level is that 2 crore, 5 crore, 10 crore, 15 crore. So the choice of debt level given your credit worthiness. Stage 2, you talk about what magnitude, whether to go for investment or you simply get the prototype from China and sell it in India. It's your call. The third stage is therefore your output choice. What will be the level of output that you will produce? But then the market is always uncertain. You didn't know there will be a COVID. You didn't know that there will be a Russia-Ukraine war. You do not know when you're from the Pengao Lake, China will again knock at your door. So if in this kind of a geopolitical situation, when India is in the global south, it is important that we realize at some point of time and make our model resistant to, if an uncertainty comes in, the uncertainty can be solvency. Suddenly, it happened in Great Britain, they suddenly discovered a huge oil pool underneath the seabed. So a shock can be good shock, a shock can be a bad shock. And therefore, accordingly, there can be two states. But what we could do after some mathematics, this diagram therefore show that there is a levered duopolist and unlevered. Levered means who has taken bank loan, who has taken a high level of debt. The unlevered is who has not taken the risk. Now we show mathematically, and this graph depicts that if the levered duopolist, the R1 curve you are seeing, the R1 curve moves out because he has taken the risk, he has innovated a new product, therefore that curve has shifted out. We call it strategic response function or best response function. As it goes out, please, for you at this point of time to realize that the decrease in Y2, the magnitude of the fall in Y2 is much less than the magnitude of increase in Y1. That means that it doesn't matter, there will be some people among you who would not like to take the risk in life. There are some firms in the industry who do not take the risk, but there are always some who will be levered, who will go for the debt, who will take the risk for R&D, that will take the industry output high, because the magnitude of increase in Y1 will be much more than the magnitude of the fall in Y2. Thank you.
Namaskar. I'll just start with a couple of disclaimers. First is Sitara is not a department, it's a center. It stands for anybody, now they're in the quiz mode. Anybody has heard this name Sitara at IIT Bombay? You can Google and find out what is the acronym standing for. Yes. Yes. No. Technology alternatives for rural areas, not applications specifically. Okay. Yes. Not of, it is for. Okay, so good. The other thing I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that in this long 4 days of orientation, you are still alive and so enthusiastic, really making this Enthuse session. Because it was about 33 years ago, I entered as a BTech student here in this institute. At that time, we did not have such an elaborate orientation. Neither we had any concept like Enthuse. Undergraduates were supposed to just study and graduate in time in 4 years. That was the main objective that we had. Really few people did good in research, mainly through the BTech projects, which are now become optional, and now we are encouraging you to get into research. So this is a bit of a paradox. So I'll start with saying or asking again some questions. Maybe you can just raise your hand. How many of you are from a village? Okay, so maybe about 15 to 20%. Okay, so others, have you been to a village? Is there anyone who has not seen a village in India? Okay, good. 1, 2, 3. So maybe my presentation is more targeted to these few people who have not been to a village or who have not lived in a village or experienced village life. Okay, so maybe, do you have a slide changer? Okay, so you can go to the first slide. Okay, so I come from Sitara. Now you know the long form of Sitara. I am also associated with a couple of other centers in IIT Bombay. One is the Center for Policy Studies and other one is for the Climate Studies. Next. And yes, congratulations to all of you. I suppose you recognize the gate of IIT Bombay. You have made it. So rather than speaking about specific research projects, I'll take my 10 minutes mainly to introduce you to Sitara and what you can do with Sitara in your 4 years or 5 years, hopefully, or maybe more, in IIT Bombay. So this is, by the way, that view is from the Samir Hill. In the rest of the time when it is not raining, you can go to the hill and see how beautiful our campus looks like. So I have already asked this question and I got good responses. So one of the things, those who have especially seen villages, how can you distinguish between rural areas and urban? What exactly is different between a village and a city? Pollution free, okay. Concentrated population in cities. Infrastructure is lacking. Facilities, infrastructure. Lack of technology in villages, okay. Isolated, who is isolated? Villages are isolated or cities are isolated? And people in the cities are isolated from each other, by the way. Okay, so you have got like, we see that rural areas are remote. Even if physically they are not very distant, maybe the modes of reaching villages are very difficult many times. You cannot reach them easily. So difficulty to access. Then we always have this notion that villages are underdeveloped. Okay, so what do we mean by that? They lack in the basic amenities, basic infrastructure, the roads are not good, not clean drinking water and so on and so forth. And of course, there is one more important characteristic of a village life. It is a lot of informality. Okay, so the kind of culture, traditions, etc. are there is very stark contrast with what happens in the city. When you walk into the village, you can easily enter in anybody's house and they will welcome you. They will offer you something to drink or eat. Unlike in cities, you try it in the city of Mumbai, even on campus, maybe most of the time you may not be able to enter the safety door of the house. Okay, so that is the kind of a contrast. On the other hand, when we are saying that India is now growing, shining, whatever you want to say, but there is this growing disparity between the India which lives in the metros and cities and the Bharat which lives in most of the villages. So that gap is widening very much. So we often see that the villages are dying and whatever infrastructure that you build, but still the cities are so overburdened that the infrastructure is not good enough. Roads are always blocked, there is traffic jam and so on and so forth in the cities. So And then this is a buzzword that I'm sure you must have heard many times. We are looking for sustainable development, okay? And now UN has also adopted SDGs, that are Sustainable Development Goals, and everyone is trying to find out this fictitious thing, what is called sustainable development. So, in this backdrop, what needs to be preserved, protected, or sustained? We want to sustain something. So, what is that we want to sustain, and what needs to be developed, or what needs to be improved? So, let's ponder upon this. So when we are talking about sustainable development, what we need is, we want to make sure that the people and cultures, they are sustained. We are not going to lose them in this race for modernity and development. And then natural resources, those are also to be preserved, the ecosystems, the environment. This is all the things that we want to make sure that they are preserved and protected and sustained. On the other hand, what needs to be developed or improved? The quality of life, especially in the rural areas, that has to be developed or improved. And social equity, there has to be justice, there have to be proper opportunities. There are many things that you can list, and everyone would like to see some good change happening in all those aspects. Now, for all this to happen, we need a very systematic view and balanced and holistic approach towards how to develop our society, okay? So, Sitara is a small academic and research center within IIT Bombay. We are independent center. We have been existing for now almost 40 years. We were set up in 1985. And as the name suggests, the name alternative is very, very important. So we are always questioning what is the role of technology in the development space, whether technology is part of the problem or part of the solution. So we have to look at technology very, very critically. I know I am sitting in Indian Institute of Technology, so we are all technocrats, but then we have to be very, very aware of what are the externalities of technology, and then we have to be sensitive to those kind of impacts. So Sitara offers that kind of a space where students or researchers can look at technology more critically and also engage with the society to understand what exactly society needs, and that has been the basis for our research work as well. So this is the kind of Sitara's mandate, if I can say. So we are working on the interface of technology and development, because that is very, very important, that there should be people who understand both the sides. They should understand what technology can offer or what technology has limitations for, and then what development sector needs. And then that's why we are typically working for the unorganized sectors, the marginalized sections of the society. We work across different domains, energy, water, sanitation, etc. You are most welcome to look up our website, identify faculty whom you would like to engage with. And this is just a snapshot view. As I said, we are a very small center, about 10 faculty members. IIT Bombay, by the way, has about 750 faculty members. So you know why I'm saying that we are a small center. Predominantly, we are offering only PG, MTech and PhD courses. So the remaining 3 minutes I'll take mainly to tell you how you can engage with Sitara, what are the different modes of engagement. The first one is minor. So since IIT Bombay offers you an opportunity to do a minor program along with your BTech degree, you can do a minor, which is a string of 5 courses, and then there are several courses that you can choose from. If you are interested, please contact us. Next, one of the courses that you can do along with whatever major, whatever other things that you're doing is a project course called TDSL, and maybe you have received an email or you may be getting emails about this course every semester. This is called Technology and Development Supervised Learning. So this is not only Sitara faculty, but any faculty across any department in IIT Bombay, if they want to do any socially relevant project where you can engage with the stakeholders and try to study, try to analyze a problem or develop some solution. This is an avenue, this is a platform available for all of you, and then you can make use of this mechanism also. These are some sample titles, sample projects, just to give you an idea of what kind of topics get covered in this TDSL project. So the one which are highlighted here, these are the topics that students worked with me in the last semester. They can be even engaging IIT Bombay as a system and working on relevant issues. And the third and important aspect or opportunity that Sitara offers is a RISE program, that is called Rural Immersion Program for the undergraduate students. So especially those who have not been to a village any time or who have not experienced the village life any time, this is an opportunity for you to spend 2 weeks in a village. All the costs, all the logistics is covered by Sitara. And then this will give a first-hand opportunity to understand what the rural life is all about. There are good things in rural life. There are a lot of barriers. There are a lot of difficulties also. So once you understand that, maybe you can think how you can address those while you are a student here. You can work on a project. That RISE program also offers you an opportunity to become entrepreneur if you want, and there is a support available for that as well. So with that, I'll close here and take any questions now or after the session. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Good to see you all. And as I heard Professor Anand say, none of these kind of things existed. But anyway, it's nice to be able to, share some thoughts about research. I'm not going to talk about the department, but just talk a little bit about research. So my name is Parag Bhargav, and if you see what I've put in the slides, this is about research. So if you're thinking about research, I know usually undergraduates, for example, in our time there were formal opportunities, but now things have changed. So if you are really excited about research, then you have to sort of build a perspective. But in general, if you ever get to experience research, okay, during the course of your stay here, you will see that it's addictive, okay. And I've just put, let's say, sort of statements which if you go through, you will realize. The other thing that I am trying to say here is, if you also get to participate in impactful research, okay, and I'll talk a bit about that. If you can participate in impactful research, it can actually get addictive in the sense that you really want to do more and more and get involved into it. And I've just given some examples when I say impactful, because it needs to be defined in some sense. On the leftmost side, if you see, many times research is also about publishing articles, right, in journals, okay. And if your research is extremely important, it gets published in journals which are very highly reputed, or a lot of other people want to cite your research, right? So that is one kind of impactful research. But if you see other pictures, you could do research which actually impact people, right, at large. Large number of people get impacted. Maybe you do things, for example, life-saving drugs, a lot of work happens. Even at IIT Bombay, I think there is work which is in medical sciences, okay, developing different formulations, devices, right? And you can, I'm sure you're hearing all this talk about green energy, right? So again, all of those things are direct impact on people, on society, on environment, right? So those are the other kind of things. One is you publish research which is very impactful, maybe basic science, okay? It just answers some questions. It may not really result into a product, but then there is this other kind of things also, right? Let's go further. So, and the other thing is, very often the leftmost, the cartoon that I put there, many times, we have an image of, what is research, and a lot of students, I think initially when you're not exposed, you have certain impression that maybe you'll go into the lab and, within a week or a month, you will really make breakthroughs. So I put, you have certain expectation, but realities can be different, like it shows a transformer there. Also, one cartoon here, it talks about basic research, right? So there's a lot of, people talk about what's basic research and what's applied, right? Applied, maybe in some sense, you're very conscious about trying to address some, solving some problems. But basic research, fundamental research is maybe you're trying to just answer certain questions, right? Or for example, just one quickly, the other two cartoons are more or less saying that, at times researchers may not really necessarily know how to communicate their research to the world. So it's a perspective, okay. So let's go further. Yeah, so I just listed few things, very generic, that because, we are talking about research, what is it that you need to become an impactful researcher? If you want to create impact. May not be, may not be a complete list, but you need to be inspired. I feel, you always, so it should not be more like, resume building. Okay, that you want to have a better CV or you want to land up a good job and all that, but first you need to be inspired about doing research. You need to be very, very curious, of course, that is very important, and highly focused, right? There's so many things happening in the institute, like it was just mentioned, 700 plus faculty members, and there's a lot of possibilities, but you need to focus on something and maybe spend more time on it, and then you can be impactful. The other thing is, if you have a real deep desire, if you cultivate that desire, if you harbor that desire in yourself to solve problems, that can really make you can become impactful. And there is one more point which I've added, desire to create wealth, and I'll show you why I have added that. Okay, let's go further. So here is some data on the two graphs that you see. The blue color is all positive numbers. The yellow color are, or whatever that color, are negative numbers. Okay, and that's difference between export and import of two countries, Germany and India, in 2023-24. Right? So if you see, Germany's population is 8 crores. Okay. And their surplus is like 22 lakh crore rupees in rupees terms, okay? That much more of export than import, and India is 20 lakh crore deficit, okay? So big impact, right? Very small country, big surplus. Why did I say that? Of course, it depends on R&D. If you are very strong at R&D, you are able to do that, right? So also it reflects in the pictures. If you are a country with surplus, by doing strong R&D, you develop very well, and then we have our own challenges in development, right? Let's go further. Some numbers just for you to think about and absorb. Samsung, it is a company all of you know, it spent in 1 year, in 2023, it spent on R&D 1,75,000 crore rupees, okay? And India's entire country's higher education budget was only 45,000 crore, comparatively just. And then if you look at MIT, Stanford, R&D funding, we have Dean's office here, but anyway, I'm just giving a perspective that they had something like, 16,000 crore R&D budget, MIT, Stanford, and IIT Bombay, I don't know if that is correct, I saw from the internet about 375 crores was our R&D budget. The point is, if we generate wealth in the country, we have more money to spend on R&D, right? And R&D definitely has that connect, right? Okay, let's go further. Yeah, further. So I put 3 examples. One is, the first example is about a polypropylene mesh. I just went through a surgery and got this into my body. And I looked up on the internet, about 20 lakh people are going through that in India. Look at the numbers, it costs 5,000, and this simple mesh is about 1,000 crores of sales every year, right? The next one is a Scotch-Brite. It's a dishwashing, you know that what is Scotch-Brite. About sales of about 250 crores. It's a sophisticated product. It's a product out of research. The last one is a ballpoint pen roller. Okay, let's go further. Yeah. So just to show you some highlights from the lab, what we are able to do in material science, and mostly pictures. You will see some of these when the students present. A brick made from waste textile, to prevent textile waste from going to landfills. We did some work on making jaggery, which was iron fortified. There's some work also on measuring moisture in the soil, because you can then save a lot of water during agriculture, right? You can irrigate the right amount. Silver paste for making the solar cells, and some app. Go further, please. Yeah, this was done by undergraduates making raincoat from milk bags, and you will see something more later. Let's go further. Yeah, do you recognize this? So we have used this for making high temperature fibers. Just go further. So these fibers were made from a very similar machine, and these fibers can take 1800 degrees C temperature and have lots of applications. Okay, go further. Yeah, so it can be, these are high temperature thermal insulation. These kind of things are used for space shuttle insulation and all of that. Very lightweight, very low thermal mass materials. Go further, please. Then we have done some highly foamed ceramics in our lab. Okay, they look like this in a microscope. Please go further. Yeah, these are the same. Further. Yeah, so you can make very porous structures and simulate structure of a bone. You know, there is material called hydroxyapatite, which is like material for bone. So you can make porous structures which resemble synthetic bone, and it can be used in surgical applications. Go further. And these are just high temperature insulation. Same thing. Go further, please. This was a machine to make these foams. Next. Yeah, these are silver again, silver powders and silver paste for making solar cells. Go further, please. Again, printed silver electronics. So we make those pastes for, you know, silver paste. Go further, please. This is something you will get to see. This is a kit developed in our lab for children to learn, you know, simple electrical concepts. Okay, go further, please. So there's a video, if you can play 10-second video, go further. Yeah, just click on it. Yeah, just play that video at the bottom. No, this one. Yeah, here. So you see, the book looks like this for children. So we made a pen with silver conducting ink. That pen is a silver conducting ink pen. So you can fill that and complete this, right? And you put a LED, put a battery, put a transistor, and you can show that, you know, your body conducts electricity. Once you put that, you can see the LED comes on. So the whole idea is we have a silver conducting ink pen, no wires are needed, and children can learn circuits and those concepts on paper directly. Yeah, let's go further. Quickly, we just few more pictures. And yeah, this silver ink pen has also been used to repair keyboards. You know, sometimes your tracks get broken. So those kind of things. Next, please. Yeah, these are 3D printed ceramic structures. You would hear of 3D printing of polymers, but we do 3D printing of ceramics also for medical application. Next. Yeah, we can skip this. Skip this. Yeah, we have also had 2-3 startups with students. So these are all different startups in dental application, in ceramics, you know, and some lab kind of things and all that. Go further. So that's it. The only thing I put here is a picture of a journal article which got published when I was an undergraduate. And I can tell you that it's very exciting to see your name on a journal article when you're an undergraduate, okay? And that's my picture from my PhD days, you know, so that's it.